Well, I am Jim Jones. I have known Justice Roger Burdick since 1977, when Justice Wayne Kidwell announced that he was going to retire. I thought about the job and I thought, if Roger Burdick can be on the court, I sure as hell can too. So I joined him on the court, and we had 12 years together on that court. I became Chief Justice. He preceded me, and he followed me as Chief Justice, and has had a remarkable career in the judiciary and on the court. Roger, I'm glad to have you here today to answer my inquiries. So tell me, what brought you into the law?
Well, actually, the reason that I became a lawyer and became public defender and a prosecutor and a judge, quite frankly, was that at every level I wanted to help people. And I really did think, as a public defender, I could help folks, and I did some, but I found that the real power there was with the prosecuting attorney. So I ran for the prosecutor in Jerome, and then I found out that there were some issues, legal and policy-wise, that needed changing. So I became the magistrate judge and worked in that regard ever since. And then district judge, SRBA, and finally the Supreme Court. I think it was always to try and help people, try and make sure that they were getting a fair deal, a square deal.
What was your major achievement in magistrate court down in Jerome?
I got a community grant from the Idaho State Bar because I had a feeling that most families that came into Jerome for child custody issues or for health and welfare had taken kids out of a home. I really did feel in many cases the family had no tools to change generational attitudes towards raising kids or families. And that some counseling before decisions were being made might help. So I wrote the grant. There was no counselor in Jerome County at all. I hired a counselor from Twin Falls County. She came over and counseled with these families for 90 days. And during that time period, if there was improvement, the department would back off. They would continue with the children in the home, monitoring. If there was no improvement, the case would go forward. But I really do think that number one was really advanced for that time period in the early 80s, as well as very effective for folks.
Talking about achievements, what during your judicial career, what are the achievements that you are most proud of, shall we say?
I one time figured out that I had interviewed as administrative judge in the 5th District, interviewing magistrate candidates, as well as district judge and on the ex officio chairman of the council. I've interviewed over 70 for 70 spots of district judges, appellate judges, or magistrates. That has to be the most important thing I ever did, was try and make sure we put nothing but the best and the brightest on the bench.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I sort of passed over it, but it's not a very big item in the minds of a lot of people, but it is really a critical issue. You had a real desire to address conservatorships and guardianships. Tell me about that.
You know, that's right. I guess that may be the most important thing, other than the Judicial Council, I did while I was on the Supreme Court. As a magistrate, I did conservatorships and guardianships, and I noticed the files in Jerome, none of them had complied with the statute of yearly reviews or yearly reports from the conservator. So I had this background of these laws are being ignored, number one. And then with the aging of the citizenry like it is, it has become more and more important. We've got to, number one, modernize these statutes. We have to have more teeth for the judge so that when somebody is doing something wrong, number one, they have notice of it. And number two, they can really do something about it. And so I worked with Patty Tobias and Judge Beater from the 4th District and put together a committee. And we put together, Judge Beater and Patty Tobias and that committee put together a new set of statutes, a new set of rules that allowed judges to be given information by beneficiaries that the personal representative may not be doing their job correctly. So there was information flowing back to the judge who's in charge of the final arbiter. And we were about 5 or 6 years ahead of a huge nationwide movement by the National Center for State Courts to do exactly that, modernize conservatorships and guardianships. And I'm very, very proud of that. And again, the work of Judge Beater, who got a national award from the Probate Judges of America, and of course, Patty Tobias.
What was your most challenging case on the court, either district or appellate?
I had, there was kind of a turf battle, drug turf battle when I was a district judge in Twin. And I had them look this up. I believe there were 14 or 15 first or second degree murders while I was district judge in Twin, and I drew almost every one of them. And that took a real toll in terms of workload.
You know, I don't know how you managed to do it, but you have a lovely wife, Rachel. And why don't you tell me what you guys enjoy doing, if it has anything to do with fish? But tell me what your enjoyment is with Rachel and how you spend your off hours.
When we first moved to Boise, we were fanatics mountain biking. We mountain biked almost every night for a couple hours, and it was just lovely. What a great place to live if you like mountain biking. We garden a lot. We have a large garden. We have grandkids. So I'd say those are the main things. And of course, fishing, we take 2 to 4 trips a year. And I know, she says she catches the biggest one every time.
I've seen the pictures. So let's not stretch things a little bit here.
Okay.
And you've got a couple of boys. One is here in Boise and one is in Alaska.
Oh, yeah. Phil is 50, he's 55, will be 56 in August, and he's up in Alaska as an educational consultant, has two girls that are smart as all get out, and Ben is the executive director and the artistic director for Boise Community Theater. Has been doing that, I guess, for 4 or 5 years. Brought them through COVID and works day and night in that regard. And he has a 9 and a 6-year-old that he and his wife Jessie do a good job with. So,
well, I've got a little bit of a surprise for you. You were told that this is going to be the Distinguished Jurist Award. I've been authorized by the bar to make a substitute, and it's my privilege and pleasure to award to you the Billy Bass Big Mouth Award.
I wanna know, can you help me? I understand. Take me to the river.
Well, you know, I'm touched. I'm truly touched. Thank you, and I'd like to thank the bar, and what can I say?